Welcome to the Social Your Sales podcast. Social has changed the B2B and professional services sales landscape forever. We are here to help you navigate what you need to know and how to execute these new strategies. Whether you are a sales leader, individual producer, or a member of the C-suite looking for answers, this is the podcast for you. Now here are your hosts, Brandon and Eric.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Social Your Sales. I am Brandon Lee, your host, and today my guest was Larry Levine, who is the author of Selling from the Heart. He's also a podcast host of Selling from the Heart podcast. Larry and I go way back. It's probably a good 4, 5, 6 years. We've talked about sales. We've talked about social media. We've agreed with a lot of things. We've disagreed with some things. I asked Larry to come on the show because we wanted to talk a little bit. We're recording this in November of 21, and as we're talking about 22 coming up so quickly, one of the big challenges with sales is trust. One of the objectives a lot of our customers will share with us is that they want their sales team to be seen as trusted advisors. And so it always begs the question of, well, what does it take to be seen as a trusted advisor? And Larry had some really, really interesting things. I love when he says things like, perception is reality. And if, sales has such a negative view of sales and salespeople, but we have the opportunity to change that with our digital communities and with our face-to-face communities as well. So he shared a lot of neat things about how salespeople can build trust and control the narrative that's said about them, because it's one thing that they can control. So welcome to episode 15 with Larry Levine from Selling from the Heart, and welcome to Social Your Sales podcast. Hey everybody, I'm Brandon Lee, and welcome to Social Your Sales podcast. I am sitting here in our wonderful studios in Sandy Springs. I almost said Sandy Springs, California, talking to you, Larry. Gosh, man.
Only because that's where I'm at, Brandon.
Yeah, that's exactly where you're at. And and I got all the Dodgers stuff in the background and yours and stuff. So I got this beautiful fall day in my background. And everybody, I have Larry Levine here with me. He is the author of Selling from the Heart, and he is the podcast host of Selling from the Heart as well. Larry, welcome to Social Your Sales.
Oh, super excited to be here. Hey, thanks for having me on, Brandon.
Hey, absolutely. So we were having a little chit chat about the heartache that you just experienced with the Dodgers.
It never ends, Brandon, because all my friends that live in Atlanta they're throwing tomahawk chops my way, and you know what? All good. You know what though? I'm happy for the Braves. I'd rather see the Braves win than the other team, so we'll leave it at that.
There you go.
But we all know who the other team is,
We
right?
all know who the other team is for sure. The cheaters, right, is what I hear.
Oh, yeah.
For not being much of a baseball fan, I did have some fun on social media, though. I even created my own little Atlanta Braves bandwagon bus ticket and showed everybody that I was jumping on the bandwagon. But, I did watch Game 7. Game 6.
Was it Game 7 or Game 6?
Game 6.
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was. I watched the last game.
I'm just super excited they won.
Yes.
I'm super excited.
Good. Well, Larry, I've loved, obviously your book and your message around being an empty suit and what that all implies. One of the conversation points I'd love to chat with you about, I've been, as we work with our customers and creating strategies for using digital and social as a communication medium, moving into especially to 2022, was we go through some of the objectives, like what do they want to accomplish? One of the things that comes up a lot is, well, we want our team to be seen as trusted advisors. And one of our first questions after we hear that, we say, great, that's awesome, high five, everybody wants to be seen as a trusted advisor. What are you currently doing to act like a trusted advisor in order to earn it? And there's a lot of, so I know that earning trust and buyer trust with sales teams is a really important topic for you. Where are you hearing? What are you working with customers around this whole concept of earning trust in a digital world?
Oh, it's such an interesting topic, Brandon, because yeah, if there is no trust, in my opinion, there is no sale, or it potentially slows down to a screeching halt.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many tools out there to help salespeople, build trust, and even, for that matter, build credibility. But I want to key in on something, because I just actually wrote an article about it, and I threw it out on LinkedIn, and it's up on the Selling from the Heart website. It was about sales professionals earn the right to sit at the business table.
Mm-hmm. I saw that the other day. I responded to it.
Yeah, you did. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I bring this to the forefront because I want sales leaders and sales professionals out there to realize that, and I'm going to throw this term, it's just my opinion, Brandon. I'm a big believer, perception is reality.
Mm-hmm. I think
perception is reality. So, but we can control how people perceive us. So if you ask, it's so interesting. If you ask salespeople to describe salespeople, they're going to give you a laundry list of all these negative terms, right? Not trustworthy, lack credibility, right?
Yeah.
And so forth. And I'm going, isn't it interesting? Is that how you want to be perceived?
Right.
Well, no, then we got to do something about it. So in order to do something about it, I'm going to use one word, and the word is congruency.
Excellent.
Are you congruent? Does the walk match the talk? How you carry yourself out in the marketplace, is that how you're carrying yourself in the world that a lot of us live in today, which is the crossroads between the physical and the digital world?
That's excellent. Explain that.
And if thank you. And if the answer is not sure, then we all have some work to do.
Yeah.
And if perception's reality, that's what I want people to key in on. If you're not bringing anything to the virtual business table and you're struggling to bring things to the real business table, then in my opinion, not much is going to happen after that, unfortunately. And I don't mean to be real direct with it, but I'm going to be. As salespeople and sales leaders, you got some work to do in order to build trust and credibility. And it goes with A, perception's reality. B is you can control that. And you got some phenomenal tools to control how people perceive you, Brandon.
Yeah. So let me play on the other side of the table on that,
sure.
and throw out some things that I hear when we're talking with customers or prospective customers as well. We don't need high trust to make deals. We just need an opportunity to show our value. How do you respond to that?
Interesting. Then, I mean, to me, trust and value go hand in hand. Mm. But it just depends. I would say, what marketplace are you playing in? Now, if it's and I'm going to throw this out there, if it's B2C, maybe that might apply. But if you're in a B2B environment where there's some complexity to it, where you want to retain your customers, you want to keep them coming back for more and keep them coming back for more, you could provide all kinds of value, whatever that value is, but value's in the eye of the beholder, if we want to use that quote. However, I know in the B2B world, and that's the world I've lived in forever and a day, is trust is currency. If they don't trust you, what's the likelihood they will keep coming back for more? You can provide all the value that you want, but is it what you think value is, or is it what your customers think value is?
Good answers. So the follow-up to that would generally be, well, we don't have time to do those types of activities. How do you respond to that?
I'll just say it exactly how it is. It's just an excuse. To me, it's just a big, huge excuse. A, it's not that important right now. Mm-hmm. So I will choose to do other things. However, I can almost promise you this. The person who's saying this, or the leader or the manager who's saying all this, have them account for all the unaccounted hours in a given day in a week that they can't account for anything that's generating any activity. I call them RGAs, or revenue generating activities. They probably screw off more than they care to admit.
Right.
Hate to say it, time's just a big excuse. I don't have time for that. Means it's not that important.
Right. Absolutely. And those are some of the responses I think you get early on in conversations around that, especially if social, and as I like to say, social media, it's not social media. It's, hey, if this is going to be a valuable, powerful communication tool, then you've got to put in the time to learn how to use the tool the proper way and then consistently use the tool the proper way to maximize your efforts.
Spot on. And it's why, one of my favorite sayings, and I write about it in Selling from the Heart, is many in sales are consistently inconsistent. And so, especially when it comes to the world of social, and I'm just going to keep it social, Brandon. I'm not going to use social selling, social media. That's just use it in the social realm.
Right.
And I remember, I'll take you and your listeners back. I remember when I first started going down this journey. This was 16 years ago. I was made fun of. People said, "Why are you even doing this?" Right? It's a big waste of time, right? I came out of the office technology channel, and I remember literally fighting with my business partners in the copier dealership I had, going, "Why are you doing this? I see absolutely no benefit in any of this." But what was interesting is I had an opportunity to go right back into my old company and work with the salespeople that were on my sales team. And this time they were paying me for it.
That's
so
right.
That was kind of hilarious.
And that's really good. And I think that's, the message around, I love that you said that. I say social is a communication tool. That's it. It's not social selling. That's why I always make fun of it and go, ooh, social selling. Because I think as soon as you start hearing social, a lot of sales leaders or business leaders go straight to social selling, and they all come straight to the same conclusion is, oh, we tried it before, it didn't work.
Absolutely. And I remember, this goes back years ago, and I remember you and I got into this conversation. And I remember it as plain as this might go back 2-3 years ago. This might even be 4 years ago, Brandon. And we got in this whole topic of this is just another tool. By the way, right? And I grew up, so now I'm going to date myself, but I grew up for a vast majority of my early selling years was pre-internet.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I built relationships and changed the way people think was face-to-face on the phone. That was it.
Right.
We didn't have email. We didn't have any of the tools that we have today. So if you weren't really good at those two tools, you're going to struggle in sales mightily.
Right.
And I'm a big believer that social has always been a part of sales.
Absolutely.
It always has been. And the reason why I say this is I go back in time. So it was if it wasn't the first book, it was the second book I read. It was called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is that book was written in 1936, 1937,
36.
somewhere in there. If Dale Carnegie was alive and well today, he'd be smiling like crazy, because I think the whole core principle of that book is so relevant. It's about building relationships and changing the way people think. So back when I started, I was building relationships and changing the way people think. I had a couple tools to use that, and you had to get really, really, really good at it.
Yeah.
Well, if let's fast forward to 2021, as we're recording this, we're still building relationships and changing the way people think. The tools have changed in order to help us do this.
Right.
And I remember that was a conversation you and I had years and years
absolutely.
ago.
And you're right. Back then we got laughed at. And I would say things like this. And let me ask you this question, Larry. When you first started out and you had your phones and you had face-to-face, was Morse code an option that you could have used as a tool?
Could have if I knew how to use it.
Right. And so my ridiculous point is,
I hear what you're saying.
You didn't go to learn how to use it because it was an outdated medium of communication. You could have used it, but it was slower, right? Not as many people used it and all that. When I look at social and I look at those metaphors or those examples, social is a more effective tool when you look at the data than the phone or the email when used properly. So let's not throw the tool out because people haven't learned how to use it properly. It's just like if I had, 15 years ago, when I had a company with a pretty big call center, and if somebody came in and said, I'm a great salesperson, but I don't use the phone. we would have got rid of them because the job revolved around the phone as a communication tool for sales. And now when I hear salespeople and organizations or, customers come to us and they end up, in the beta test mode, they voluntold people to come in and be a part of this program. And a lot of them go, well, I just don't use social media. And I'd love to share that example and go, well, that's like, 10, 15 years ago telling a salesperson saying, I don't use the phone.
Yeah, you're so here's something. Here's what I want everyone to think about. And it plays on exactly what you just said, Brandon. I want everyone to key in on this for a moment. I want this going right at sales leaders. I mean, this message is aimed right at sales leaders. So key in on this. How do you expect you and your sales team to get noticed in a marketplace that doesn't know you exist?
It's a great question.
And I want y'all to stop and think about that. So here's what's interesting, because I've shared this in the sales teams that I work with and sales leaders I have conversations with. I said, I want you to all play make-believe. So let's all play make-believe for just a moment. So here we are. We just started our businesses, right? We just got this business idea in our head, and we're all going to be entrepreneurs. We're all going to start our own businesses. What are the first couple things you all are going to do when you start your new business? The first couple things that come up is I'm going to create a website. I need to get web presence. I need to integrate social media. I need to get my name out there. I need to start marketing myself, and I need to start engaging in conversations and drive sales. I said, hello, right?
Yeah.
Sales professionals and sales leaders, you are entrepreneurs. I believe sales professionals, sales leaders are entrepreneurs. They're the CEOs of their business. Then run your business like an entrepreneur and a business owner would run their business, and take control of the tools that you have out there to do this. But here's what's interesting is I have to give a special shout out, if you allow me to a really good friend of mine. He's been on the podcast a couple times. He's written an amazing book called The Transparency Sale, and it's Todd Capone. And Todd Capone's got a great thing he's running on Instagram as well. It's called The Sales Historian. And Brandon, he geeks out on sales history. I mean, this guy goes way back, like 100 years, 120 years, and he just geeks out on stuff like this. And here's what was interesting. He goes, because we had him talk about this on the podcast, and he goes, think about when email first came out. Everybody went to email, right? Yep. And then pretty soon salespeople and sales leaders screwed up how to use email. Mm-hmm. They screwed up how to use the phone, right? So now there's do not call things and, and email, right? They've screwed that up, and now there's spam blockers and so forth.
Yep.
Here's what's happening now. They've screwed up the use of social as well, because they've taken all their bad practices and they've just transferred them right onto social.
Amen, brother. Preach it.
And so this is why people say, and I know you've heard it, you've said it in our time together. This is why people say, well, I tried it and it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, here's what's interesting. Trying means I have no accountability to it. I tried it once and therefore, right?
Yep.
Nothing. So guess what? It doesn't work.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between trying and training.
Yeah. Well, and it's, one of the metaphors I like to use is, I used a screwdriver to try and pound this nail into a board, and it kind of worked a little bit, but not really, and it really hurt my hand. So you know what? I tried, and it didn't work. Look, if you use a tool wrong, it's not trying.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think what's happened is the use of social is a tool. It's not the tool.
Absolutely.
It's a tool.
It's a communication tool.
It's a communication tool. It's a connection tool. It's an engagement tool. It's an educational tool. Used properly, with discipline, with consistency, you will see some really great results.
Yeah.
However, what I do know, because I think through the lens of a salesperson, is they want the quickest, shortest route to so-called success, however they're going to define it, with the minimal amount of work.
And that's fine.
And unfortunately, social's a breeding ground for all of this.
Right. And I mean, I think, there's nothing wrong with wanting things done quick, but you got to look at what that means. Is it quick by your standards, or is it quick by the standards that your buyers are willing to go? Because a piece I love to say over and over again is that's all great, but you got to go slow to move fast. Because right now you're very quickly working through a bunch of activities that aren't producing. And you're saying, well, they weren't a good fit, they weren't this, they weren't that. I don't think that's the case. You didn't nurture them the right way to get them to a place where they trusted you enough to give you the time to understand it and understand what an implementation or a use case could be for their company. So you quickly went through and disqualified them because your own activity didn't allow them to go through the steps of the process with you the way that they wanted to, which was based on trust.
Yeah, and I think, to even expand on trust is we can control what we can control. We can't control what we can't control. We can control how we walk, talk, and breathe and live on a platform like social. I don't care whether that be LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or the four majors that are out there.
Messenger, which is a tool we've seen used so effectively.
So here's the thing is I'm a big believer first impressions matter. First impressions matter and perception's reality. And we as sales professionals and sales leaders can absolutely 100% control that. Now, here's something to think about. Are you worthy of having a conversation with? If first impressions matter, if your appearance matters, then are you worthy of having a conversation with? And I'm concerned that a vast majority of salespeople and sales leaders haven't taken an advantage of this because they haven't been coached and taught the benefits to this.
Right.
Yet, if they were going to open up their own business, they'd position themselves really well, leveraging website and all this stuff, but they can't make that correlation all the way down to sales.
Social Your Sales. We'll be right back.
Is your sales team struggling to hit quota? Are your buyers ignoring your sales requests for conversations? The third tier of digital transformation is social. Is your team equipped to meet this challenge? This show is brought to you by FunnelAmplified. We help sales teams align their sales process with how modern buyers prefer to make their purchase decisions. FunnelAmplified is a social selling platform that drives new opportunities with your sales team, using proven social selling tactics to drive pipelines and hit quotas. With FunnelAmplified, it's quota achieved. To learn more about FunnelAmplified or start a free trial, please visit us at FunnelAmplified.com.
You nailed it when you asked that question about if you were going to start a company, what would you do? And you get a room full of sales leaders and salespeople, and when they think like an entrepreneur, they know exactly what to do. But it's easy to think like a salesperson and say, feed me leads.
Yeah.
Yeah, which doesn't work anymore, unfortunately.
No, and I just came out of a time where I was responsible for everything. I was responsible for prospecting. I was responsible for taking the sale right through the whole journey. I was responsible for the customer experience. I was responsible for referrals. I was responsible for all of this. And I think today everyone's just pointing a finger, well, whose responsibility is that? Whose responsibility is this? And we've created country clubs for salespeople.
That's good. You want to elaborate on that a little bit?
You want to go down that road?
Yeah, I mean, I think because it's part of what we wanted to talk about is about creating trust, right?
Yeah. So here's the thing: is by the way, I love everything about sales, and I want to preface this: I'm not here to disrespect anybody in sales. I love every aspect of sales.
Just have
but
to.
When I say when I say that we've created country clubs for salespeople, is again, I don't want the ADRs and BDRs and SDRs to pound at me when I say this, But BDRs, SDRs, ADRs have made salespeople lazy. My opinion.
Mm-hmm.
They've made them lazy to where they struggle to pick up the phone. They struggle to have conversations. If it's not served up to them on a business platter, then they won't take it. And the only reason I'm saying this is if I have any one-to-one with salespeople and I ask them what they're really struggling with, it's just me to them, eyeballs to eyeballs. It will all come around as this: I'm struggling to articulate value. I'm struggling to engage in business conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are you going to do about it? I'm here to say that, you know what, there's a time and a place for SDRs, BDRs, ADRs, whatever the acronyms are. But guess what? A sales professional is going to do all the things that everyone else finds excuses not to do.
Really good. And you're speaking to, I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No.
You're speaking to, I've had multiple people from a existing sales team that I won't say their name. They sell a sales technology that I would say has been marketed as being an easy button. That's not actually easy. Doesn't really work. Doesn't create the outcomes. But they've come to me and said, hey, I need help learning how to sell. And as we unpack that a little bit and said, what do you mean? It's they've been fully trained on how to push the buttons in the technology, but they don't know how to have a conversation. They don't know how to create trust and value. They don't know how to move a conversation along at the rate that the buyer is willing to go. They know how to go one speed. Are you ready for a demo? Are you ready for the demo? Because that's what they've been taught how to do. And they shoot themselves in the foot a lot because the buyer goes, I don't have time for this, because they haven't established the foundation either through a social presence, through an engagement presence, through any other content sharing or anything that helps lay a foundation of a conversation. They just go straight to, if I got you on the phone, I'm giving you a demo.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack there. Is tools are great, right? I mean, tools are tools. I can learn how to use all of them. I can push buttons on them and all that. If I can't have a business conversation with somebody, I'm going to be viewed as an empty suit. There's a lot of them out there. That's why I just wrote that article. Sales professionals earn the right to sit at the business table. And here's where I'm concerned with, and it expands upon what you just said, Brandon, is we can dress salespeople up really nicely online. They can push all the buttons they want online. They can hide behind all the technology they want. If they're not bringing business substance to the table, if they're not bringing business acumen to the table, if they're not having business conversations, if they look like a salesperson who sells as opposed to a business person who sells, they're in for a world of hurt.
Right.
Because buyers don't have time for any of this anymore. They can sniff all of this out in 2 seconds.
Yeah. And I would say it's not even the buyers don't have time. They just choose not to. They're savvier and they have more tools at their disposal, in their hands to do the work that they need to do. And they can just avoid those people. As you know, I've called it the circle of trust. Sales reps have got to earn the right to be in a buyer circle of trust. Because if not, buyers have all the technology and all the tools in the world to keep them out. They unsubscribe, they unfollow, they disconnect, they don't answer their calls, they send emails to spam. They can do everything in the world to keep them out. And a sales rep's first job is to earn the right to be in that buyer circle of trust so that they can have a conversation. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no. So it's interesting. I love how you refer to this as circle of trust. Is I look at trust and I think of an equation, and the equation that I believe, and it ties into this whole circle of trust, is I believe that the way salespeople and sales leaders earn trust and get in that circle of trust, as you referred to, Brandon, is based on this equation. It's very simple. It's AR plus MV. And the AR is authentic relationships. The MV is meaningful value. You got to bring both of those to the table.
Absolutely.
You got to learn how to build authentic relationships and bring meaningful value to the table.
Yeah.
And the accelerant on all of this are IE, which is inspirational experiences, and DH, which is disciplined habits. So it's AR plus MV times IE times DH. The only reason I say this is I've been coached by my business coach that people remember things in equations, and I'm a firm believer they do.
Yes.
Is we got to learn how to bring this to the table. The first thing is if they don't trust you, if they don't think you're credible, they will start withholding information that you need
right
to help them solve business problems. That's why I'm a big believer in selling from the heart, because it's about bringing those authentic relationships and meaningful value to the table. It's about
Absolutely.
sincerity and having business substance and all that. And here's the thing is it's just one human having a conversation, Brandon, with another.
Absolutely.
And that's all it is. It just so happens that person has a title and you have a title. You're a salesperson, they're a business decision maker. You already know. Here's what I want salespeople to key in on, and leaders. I believe you're already behind the 8 ball already, and you've never had a conversation with them because perception's reality.
That's really
right.
Good. Yeah.
You're viewed as being untrustworthy. You're viewed as being full of BS. The buyer's skeptical about everything that you have to say. So let's just think about it. You're entering any conversation with somebody with 3 strikes against you already. Control the narrative, control how you're perceived, position yourself completely different than everybody else. Again, I'm going to go back to, are you positioning yourself as a salesperson who sells? Or are you positioning yourself as a business person who sells?
Yeah. And I mean, I would even push it a little bit further than that is, and one of the things that I say a lot and I share with our customers all the time is that everybody can't help themselves, but they show up in every interaction with another human being first and foremost from their heart rather than their title. And that is true for LinkedIn, as Facebook, as Instagram, as a conversation around a water cooler across the table from you at a restaurant. People can't help but show up as their human being rather than their title. And you got to start at that human level first, because that connectedness, that trust, that relationship that develops there earns you the right to then have a conversation around the business.
It's so true. And I'm a big believer in this saying. I've seen it play out when I was in corporate sales. I've seen it play out as we're growing and expanding, selling from the heart. It's this, Brandon. The more comfortable that I can make somebody feel, the more comfortable I can make somebody feel about me, the more comfortable they will become, and they will soon start sharing things about themselves and their business that they won't share with somebody else.
Yeah, that's really good. And my belief, I think that's really, really good, Larry. And my belief is it's leading with the human heart, which I know you do as well, rather than your title, because nobody really cares. I mean, we've known this, and I love that you brought up How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a book that I make all my kids read. It's a book that I read every year, because it's just that good and something that you got to remember. And it's that, when people don't really care what you know until they know that you care. And once they know that you truly care, then they have that trust, that faith, that you have that business credibility, then they look at you as a trusted advisor and ask you for help.
Yeah, yes. And we as salespeople, and leaders got to start coaching salespeople on this, is we do a really great job in sales of skill set training. In other words, we will train on product knowledge, solutions knowledge, service knowledge, how to overcome objections, how to put deals through the journey. All equally important. I'm not here to discredit any of it.
Right.
Needed 100%. Here's where there's not enough of, and during this past 2 years, it's been turned on its head. We haven't done enough with salespeople to help them with people skills.
Amen.
The relational skills, how to carry themselves, how to lean into people, how to bring intentionality to the forefront, what to do, along the way, how to expand these relationships, what to look for. It's sorely lacking in sales. It's been exposed like there's no tomorrow over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. And that's, I look at that and say salespeople didn't know how to do that before social media. They definitely don't know how to do it in social media, right? That's why so much social media or social selling as an activity has become, I'm going to go blast everybody with my messages and say, if I post it, they will come. And look, there's room, there's opportunity, there's time that I should be sharing. We all, as salespeople, should share messages from our business because that's part of who we are. But if that's all we do in social media, it's like having a face-to-face with somebody where all you do is talk about your brochure and you never ask them questions about them or never connect at a human level. And that just doesn't work. It's never worked. It's never worked in any medium, and it's definitely not going to work in a digital medium.
No, and to even layer on top of this, and I'm probably going to add some fuel to this, but
please do.
That's okay.
Fuel
that's
away.
Okay. Is this: if you struggle to articulate your value, if you struggle with business conversation, if you have low levels of business acumen, if your relational building skills, right, how you build relationships is low, if you lack self-confidence, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your message, if you have low self-worth, I'm here to tell you this: social selling and LinkedIn isn't going to solve any of those things. It's just going to expose more of it.
Absolutely.
And here's why I say this. Does social play a huge part? Has it played a huge part in my life? Yes, absolutely. But I flipped this around. I worked on the inner part of who I was that allowed me to have the outer success that I'm having. Sales leaders and salespeople, if you want your teams to see the success that social will give them, work on these people skills, work on conversational skills, work on engagement skills, work on how you build, grow, and nurture relationships and influence networks. Double down on their confidence, how their business acumen, their business skill sets, their business literacy. Focus in on all of that and watch what starts to happen to sales.
Yep. Just have them read How to Win Friends and Influence People every year.
Well, okay. Yeah, absolutely. But here's one step farther. And I threw this in this article that I wrote. I said salespeople right now can earn a PhD for free from their current clients if they're willing to ask.
Yep.
If they're willing to suck it up and ask. Ask C-level people, ask mid-level decision makers, ask lower-level decision makers.
That's good.
Walk me through in the day in the life of what you do. Where do you go to learn how to do your job better? How did you get to the position you're at? What do you look for, right? You're amongst a bunch of CFOs. What are y'all talking about? And consistently go back and go back and go back and go back and ask your current clients these things. I promise you this: in less than a year, you will have earned a doctorate, and you will have institutional knowledge beyond what you ever thought imaginable, right from your current clients.
Absolutely.
Then take all of that and then go start repurposing all of that stuff out. Now I'm getting fired up. Sorry, Brandon.
No, good.
And
Keep
then start
going.
repurposing all that stuff out on social. And that's the fuel that you're going to use to go open up conversations with people who don't know who you are.
Absolutely. And here's, I love that, Larry. I love that you got all fired up. And one of the things that we train, and so here's a free nugget for everybody out there is, and this isn't my questions book, but have your folder, have your notebook. I have one that says questions. And anytime I can ask them a question or they ask me a question, I write it down. And then that becomes my social content. It's not that difficult. If a customer asks me a question, I go, If they asked it, I bet everybody has that same question. Or if they say something about their day, if they say it, everyone's in it, and that just becomes our social content.
It's I would say it's not rocket science. It's really not. Right. And I think what's happened, and this is where I'm going to stick up for salespeople and sales leaders, and I'm going to flip this around, is I think there's so much noise out there. And when I mean noise is, no, you do this, no, you do that, no, you can't do that, you have to say this, no, you do this. And there's so much of that. There's so much social policing going on that I think a lot of sales leaders and salespeople are become paralyzed. Yeah. They go, I just don't feel comfortable doing this because, right, fill in the blank with all the excuses and the mind gymnastics that they put themselves through on why they can't do this. I go, it's not that complicated, to your point. And I love that you have that book with all these questions in it, Brandon, because, I've always said to salespeople, why don't you just start writing down, like you said, all the questions that you're asked from your current clients. Think back over this past week. What were the top 10 questions you've been asked? And just freaking answer them.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, our technology walks them through doing that, because we all need training wheels to help us get there. But, simple conversation starters are wrapped around questions they ask. And we do know if one person asks it, there's a lot of other people out there that either have asked it, want to ask it, or thinking it. And social is just an amplification tool. It's a communication tool to do that at scale. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, I'm an alliteration freak. So everything's got to start with the same letters, and they have to be in threes.
Yes.
And I'm just a big believer that a platform like LinkedIn, especially in a professional business context, it's about educating, it's about engaging, and it's about exciting people into conversations. If you can do those three things, watch what starts happening to your connections, your conversations, and the top of your sales funnel.
Yep. I love that. And we break it down. I think what you just said, there's like this high level philosophical approach to LinkedIn. And we break it down into three action steps, right? It's connecting with people, it's sharing thoughtful content, and it's engaging with people. Those are the three things that you need to do every day. Expand your network, share what you know, what you think, what people want to hear about, so that you are seen as a thought leader or as a trusted advisor, not just a sales rep. And you need to go have conversations. And
it's so spot on. And here's something that's really fascinating is, and when sales leaders and salespeople, Brandon, see the light, I love to see the lights come on in their eyes when they get this. Because I said this is, you're 1 degree of separation from your best sales opportunity. Most of you, unfortunately, don't know about it, because most people, insert salespeople and sales leaders, are poorly connected to their current customer base and their targeted account list. Yeah. And they're beating their head against the wall, trying to get a foot in the door. When meanwhile, if they would have built a healthy network and started asking for help and influencing their network, they would have realized that Brandon, who I've been trying to reach for 1.5 years, is connected to Larry. I know Larry. Can Larry possibly help me get a conversation with Brandon? It's that freaking simple.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Larry, thank you so much. As usual, I love our conversations together. We could nerd out for long periods of time, but our time has come to an end. So, Larry, let everybody know how they can find you.
A couple different ways, and thanks for allowing me the opportunity to share. If you want to find out anything about Selling from the Heart, you can go to sellingfromtheheart.net. If you'd like a free copy of my book, it's a shameless plug. Sorry, Brandon.
No, that's what from the heart. I teed it up for you.
No, it's all good. You can go to sellingfromtheheart.net/book. And lastly, if you want to learn anything about what we're up to at Selling from the Heart, all the latest and greatest things that we have cooking, just follow us on the Selling from the Heart podcast on any of the podcast channels that you listen to.
There you go. Awesome. Larry, thank you so much. As usual, I appreciate you and your insights and your wisdom and sharing with all of us today. Thanks so much.
I I appreciate it. Good seeing you again.
Yeah, good seeing you as well. All right, everybody. Hey, this is another awesome episode of Social Your Sales. I almost said selling from the heart, Larry. That's another awesome episode.
Hey, Brandon, it was that subliminal thought that I
knew you
through
you
the
got
screen.
that in there. Yeah, like let me just go, sell books for you. But another episode of Social Your Sales. I'm your host, Brandon Lee. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Social Your Sales podcast. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with your friends. Social is meant to be social, and sharing is a great way for us to meet you and get to know you. Click on share and tag us at FunnelAmplified, or just use #SocialYourSales.